I tell this to entrepreneurs because I've seen it happen over and over again. And ones who've made much more money than me, you see the bank statement, and then you all of a sudden regret selling your company. You have no purpose. They own your company, the brand, the baby, the team doesn't work for you anymore, and you're sitting at home with all this money and all this time. And I've seen people get really depressed, drugs, suicide, depression, they realize, oh, that does nothing to solve whatever it was that put that battery in me. And then you have to, the shark has to stop moving, and you have to actually examine, okay, well, what actually gives you joy? And what is your purpose? And then I was really able to see, like, I actually really enjoy building things with people who are different, who are mutants.
So what ends up being the win for you at this point? I mean, you have enough money. So if you never made another dollar, that would be fine. Yep. And if some of the companies disappeared, that would probably be fine. Like, is it just, can I get the next unicorn? Or is it like, I want to find someone who I see something in that I work like, and how often does that happen where it's like, you're not sure about the product, but you just love the person? Like,
yeah, it's like two really good questions in there.
I only get 3 per episode. So this is it. The rest
so we used a lot.
We
burned through 2 of them real quick. I have an uncanny ability to look at a person and I will see above their head winner in a neon sign that they can't even see. And it's just blinking. And I look around the room and I'm like, this guy's a fucking winner. This gal's going to crush it. Nobody else sees the sign. I think it's like almost like being a mutant, like an X-Men or something.
That's your mutant power.
That's my mutant power is like, I don't have some crazy superpower myself other than I can identify the other mutants and I can help the other mutants. So it's kind of like a Professor X, kind of like a Cerebro kind of thing. Because the people who do change the world, they are very difficult people. They're challenging. They argue. They're not perfect. They're awkward. Sometimes they're on the spectrum. Sometimes people would describe them as assholes or difficult, but they're incredibly competent. And when you hear them talking, you hear their passion, it's not an empty can making a lot of noise. It's like, it resonates. It's deep. It's like, yes, this will echo in eternity if it works. Like when Travis showed me Uber, I was like, yeah, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that 1 billion people around the world will be taking out their phone and using Uber.
Even though we grew up at a time where everyone was told, don't get in a car with a stranger.
Of course, yeah.
Don't get in a car with a stranger went from get in a car with every stranger.
Yeah, and when I asked him pressing questions, every time I asked a pressing question, I would see him processing it like a Terminator, like in Terminator 2. And he's processing it even if he hadn't thought about the issue. And he would have like a very clear vision for how that might execute. And we had this like argument over tipping. Mm-hmm. And, I'm from Brooklyn. Everybody gets tipped. My first time I ever took a flight, I was 15 years old. And the the flight attendant, stewardess at the time, flight attendant came to me. And, I was a idiot Brooklyn kid. And she said, what do you want? And me and my friend. And I said, well, take 2 Coca-Colas. And she brought the Coca-Colas. I said, here, this is for you, sweetheart. And I handed her $2. She took the $2 and she looked at me and she goes, wait, we don't take tips. And she dropped it in my lap.
Wow.
At which I said, I'm so sorry. I'm from Brooklyn. We tip everybody. She goes, it's quite charming. You don't need to tip us. And I said, it's my first flight. I mean, this is like the opening scene of my movie is like this idiot kid who doesn't understand the world.
Did you ever see My Blue Heaven with Steve Martin?
Yes.
When he plays a mafia guy in Witness Protection and he goes, I don't tip, I over tip. So the way you did your hand there, that's the way he did it. Yeah.
Is hilarious. And now I live in Austin where everybody calls me sweetheart again or honey. And I'm like, well, this is quite charming. We're back to the 80s. Anyway, I kind of can identify those people, but the first part of your question is like, well, what makes you tick, right? Like what makes Johnny run? You know, there's like that famous book in Hollywood, like what makes that kid run? I forgot the name of it, but everybody in Hollywood reads it. And it's kind of about ambitious, youth. And I think, when I look back on it, we're all the product of our childhoods in many ways. And, I was just a kid in Brooklyn who was irrelevant, who had no power, no money. We were just poor kids in Bay Ridge. And I just thought to myself, someday I want to go to Manhattan and be famous and rich and powerful. And it was like
Was famous first? That's the way you said it.
I think it was. I think it was more money, because I just thought, my God, we never have any money. And every fight my parents ever had was just about trying to pay the bills, right? Yeah. We were living paycheck to paycheck. My dad had a bar at one point. That was just financially super difficult, the worst business you could ever be in. And so I just always had this fear of running out of money. And so when I made my first couple of million, I was sitting there with my wife after I sold the company, and I was sitting there waiting for the wire to come through from AOL, and I'm refreshing my Bank of America screen because they said the wire's been sent through.
Yeah.
Refreshing and refreshing. Yeah. You know, this is online banking in the early 2000s, and it takes like, a couple seconds, a minute for it to load, and it loads, and I see this millions, tens of millions of dollars show up in the bank account. She goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, what do you mean? This is incredible." She goes, "You're crying." And I said, "I'm crying?"
Wow.
And I felt my chin, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm crying." She goes, "Why are you crying? You made all this money, and we're set for life." I said, "Oh, I never have to worry about money again." It was just like incredible cathartic release to say, "Oh, I don't have to have that fear," right? Like a primordial fear. And then I also thought, like, well, wouldn't it be interesting if, like, you were relevant and people listened to your opinion, or you knew people and your friends were super relevant, and you, like, got to do what all these rich people are doing in Manhattan. So when you and I grew up in the boroughs, there was a term, B&T.
Yeah, Bridge and Tunnel.
And if you went to Manhattan, when I went to Manhattan and I tried to go to Palladium or Limelight, half the time you went and you showed your Brooklyn ID, they would hand it back to you and say, no B&T.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let you into a club if you were from Brooklyn. Yeah. Literally. They would just go back to Long Island. In your case, right? You're on Long Island.
Yeah.
Like, that's even worse than being from Brooklyn. That's further out.
Yeah.
You just throw your ID back in your lap.
Exactly.
Then, of course, I got a fake ID, an NYU ID from St. Mark's Place for $10, and that solved that problem. But, I wanted to try to be in charge. I wanted to have control of my destiny, because the first 2 or 3 jobs I had, I kept getting either fired or told to wait in line. And it just infuriated me. But once I figured out how to hack stuff, I was like, oh, the world's a video game. There's a solution to every level. I'm just going to route around anything in my way. Anything that's in my way, I'm just going to find the back door. Because in New York, we kind of, like when we went to the movies, one person would buy a ticket. They go to the back of the Fortway. They'd open up the emergency exit, and 6 kids would run in. Like, that's how we went to the movies. We didn't have the money to go to movies. So one person bought a ticket, went in. We just always had an angle. We had an angle. And so, that's what got me through the first 20 years. But, after that, you're going to wind up, and I tell this to entrepreneurs because I've seen it happen over and over again. And once you've made much more money than me, you see the bank statement, and then you all of a sudden regret selling your company. You have no purpose. They own your company, the brand, the baby, the team doesn't work for you anymore, and you're sitting at home with all this money and all this time. And I've seen people get really depressed, drugs, suicide, depression, they realize, oh, that does nothing to solve whatever it was that put that battery in me. And then you have to, the shark has to stop moving, and you have to actually examine, okay, well, what actually gives you joy? And what is your purpose? And then I was really able to see, like, I actually really enjoy building things with people who are different, who are mutants.
How did it change you? So you go from not having anything, then it did take some time, but now, okay, you refresh the Bank of America, you see all this money, like, it has to fundamentally change you at that point, because you're crying without even realizing it. Like,
I think
not just that you have more shit.
It took the edge off, and it took a couple of years, but then I realized, okay, now I'm dangerous. Like, I don't need, even when I was an entrepreneur, I needed some permission. I needed to make money. I needed to get an investor. There were costs associated with it. Then it was like, oh, I can just start a project now and just do it. I don't need to go to an investor. I can just build the prototype or get started. And, in today's day and age, young people who have skills, product designer, developer, sales executive, they can start a project on the weekend. And we have something called Founder University, where we teach people over 12 weeks how to build a company and all the little secrets that people don't know. And some of it's like obvious stuff, like legal issues around cap tables, which you probably had to learn as a comedian.
Yes.
And it was
not
like
the funnest part of all of this.
We as Elon and I called it in the early days, like how's it going on this or that? And we'd be like, yeah, I got to do some chores today. What chores are you doing today? Oh, the cap table, legal, accounting, HR. But we all have to do our chores. Like this fun stuff like launching rockets or building podcasts. And then there's chores. Yeah. Hiring people, firing people, all that kind of accounting stuff. But, then the fundamental change, I think, is I realized, there's no upper limit to this. The world is rooting for entrepreneurs. They're rooting for creators. And everybody can create, but it's just, I think the learned helplessness in society is such that people have been told to wait in line and these are the safe routes. And then there's another side, which is, pursue your dreams. And both of these are equally bad advice. Pursue your dreams is well, you're going to need some skills.
Right.
You're going to need a target. What's the destination? Is there a market need for that? Are there customers who you're solving a problem for or delighting? There's a lot of blocking and tackling between you and follow your dreams.
Right. If you're looking for an unfiltered lens into the world of tomorrow, go check out our tech playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a wide variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.